but we're going to go ahead and get started because we have a lot of great stuff to talk about today. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. First of all, did everybody get the meeting minutes from the July 8th meeting? And were there any comments or questions about the minutes? Okay, yes, Susan.
Oh, wait a minute. I noticed one thing that in the discussion about town meeting, it said it was going to be December 13th instead of September 13th.
Okay, so we need to make that change to September 13th. Any other comments or questions about the minutes? Can I have a motion to accept the minutes with the amended date?
So moved.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
All right, great. We'll go through and vote. Let's see, we'll go in order. I vote aye. John?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Okay, Ramon? He's
We
on.
lost him.
Aye.
All right,
I bet.
that's okay. Mark?
Yes, approved.
Marcia?
I'm not a voting member.
Yes,
you're not
she
a voting
is.
member.
I'm sure she is.
No, I'm not. I made it clear I wasn't going to be a voting member. I'm here as a liaison only. Beth is of the voting member.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, so. Oh, hey, Deborah.
Deborah.
Hi. Welcome. Deborah, not to put you on the spot here. Oh, hang on. You're muted. Deborah, you're muted, honey.
Can the organizer unmute her? Jeremy, can you unmute her?
I'll try. No, I can only pin her video. I don't think I'm actually.
You're not a host, I think.
Jeremy, are you able to unmute Deborah?
There we go.
Okay. Hi, Deborah.
I can't hear a thing.
Oh,
We
no.
can hear you now.
Settings up there. If you visible settings thing. Yeah. Document. Audio.
No, I'm not able to chat either. I would text her.
Well, do we have enough votes to
I think we do.
Want to
Yeah.
go around so they can see you?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So passed. Thank you very much. And we'll make that change to the minutes. Next item on the agenda is the status of our new people to be
Do you
sworn
want to
in. Ramon, I'm delighted to hear that you're sworn in. I don't believe that John McGonigal has been sworn in yet. So she's not here to tell us about that. So we'll check in next time. Okay. Well, moving on, updates from the town. I know Beth will be here in just a couple of minutes, but first I'm going to turn this over to a member of the public here, Rick, who will talk to you about what I hope you see on the screen. Does everyone see a poster?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, Rick, why don't you go ahead and tell us about this?
You have read the books, now see the movies. We have been working on putting together a drive-in, that's right, a drive-in in Concord, Massachusetts. I think it's been for about the last 3 months, and it's been working. It has not been working, but now it's working. So actually, hold on for 1 second. Yeah, guys, just go ahead and you can just take care of it. You don't need me. Sorry, I just moved into my house and we had a couple of adjustments that needed to be made. So on July 30th, we will be showing Indiana Jones. This is Raiders of the Lost Ark up at the high school in the main parking lot. There will be 2 screens. One is 40 feet wide. The other is about 35 feet wide. We can fit a total of 100 cars. the spaces will be checkerboarded, so cars will be spaced one space apart to maintain social distance. And this is the first of two. The plan is, if this goes well, we might get a little bit more complicated by adding food service, and we can figure that out. But I think for the first run, what we want to do is make sure that it's successful. And so far, I think we've got, last time I looked, 12 spaces after going live for about 15 minutes. So I'm expecting it to sell out. And that's about it.
That's very exciting. And I do understand that it's free of charge, but you do have to reserve a spot. And they, in lieu of any kind of payment, they're just offering people the opportunity to donate to the Concord Together funds to help the local businesses, correct?
Yes, that's exactly right, and that's a very good point. So the licensing agreement that we have allows us to show the film, and what they're charging us is based on the fact that we're not charging anyone, and we're not saying suggested donation, but I don't have an issue with sort of what they used to do before a movie would start, sort of passing the cup around kind of thing. So yeah, I think that would be very good.
Hello, it's Jan.
Hi, Jan. Welcome.
Jan.
Well, congratulations, Rick. This is really, really wonderful. Very excited about this.
Well, I have to say, I mean, I've been pushing it, but that's just because I'm annoying and pushy. But there have been so many people involved with this. I mean, from Stephen to Beth to Jerry to Manny to Elizabeth. I mean, Jen, we're just glad that this was able to get through, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
The flyer looks fun.
So,
Whoever did the graphics did a super job.
yeah, Rick, did you make that poster?
I did.
Well, it's awesome.
Well, thanks. Thank you.
You should sell copies of it.
Well, I took a photograph of the old Concord drive-in, and I just used that.
That's awesome.
Kidding.
Nice to meet you.
So first of all, I want to thank Rick for all the help that he's done on this. I mean, he's really helped. He and Beth have really kind of taken this on and made this happen. I'm sorry, I was actually talking to the superintendent to make sure that we're all set. We're all set, but I had asked to talk to her about it. But anyway, in terms of the free of charge, obviously we set up the thing to be suggested donations like we talked about, and the town is going to pay for this out of town funds. And I think some of you may have been on a call that we had. Rick was on kind of an organizing call, and we spent a bit of time talking about trying to find a way to make this kind of a direct connect to retailers and restaurants, and in talking that through with a few, including Elizabeth Akersmore from Trails End. And I think even with this group, it was a real struggle to figure out a way to kind of make that connection in a way that made sense with the time we had. And so I think what we decided on was the simplest and easiest way to do this is to just make it a community event. Just something to bring people together, and just kind of like I don't say psychological, but really just a feel-good community event, which was relatively easy to do. But I do think businesses should be taking the opportunity, and hopefully businesses will have the opportunity to cross-promote. But that's why we had talked about a lot of different options about selling tickets to the retailer, through businesses. And I mean, to get it done quickly made it so we just couldn't figure out a way to do that. And then it was just like, you know what, let's just have a fun night that people can, maybe they support local businesses, maybe they don't, but at least people get out and see a movie. And so I think
that's a really good point. And I think in my opening remarks, what I might say is exactly what you said. We're putting this on. We want everyone to have an enjoyable evening, but let's look at the situation that we're living in. The world is upside down, and we want to take care of our own. Something along those lines, to recognize the purpose of this, and is to not just have fun, but to support our community. So I think that something like that should be said.
Right, and this is Jan. I just wondered if we have a suggested donation, it's free, but there's a suggested donation. Could that go to the Concord Together Fund?
think-
And
Yes, it
I
is,
think
Dan.
to define is to limit, and I think if you have a suggested donation, that is going to that may preclude people from making a larger donation. But I just want to be careful on this first one to do it right in that. I mean, we specifically, when we filled out the forms for the royalty payment, there is a specific question that you will not be asking for donations. So I think if we can word it in a certain way, if we say suggested donation, then that's quasi-admission. I don't want to run afoul of that.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it was a little bit, and Jennifer's already displayed her wordsmithing abilities to try and avoid certain things. So it was in that spirit that we looked at. Like I said, I just want to reiterate, we really tried to figure out a way to do that, and there wasn't a way that made sense. And
I have
like
one
I
other
said,
question. Would it be possible to send out some sort of word, or in the Concord Journal or something, to simply say if there are any interested sponsors for this event? I mean, or did the form preclude sponsorships?
Not that I recall. And for this first one, no, but because the Concord, the Journal, I think, has already gone to press for next week. But for the next one, August 13th, yeah, we can look at that.
Yeah, I mean, so Jan, to answer your question, the town of Concord is the sponsor, and I think we're looking to really, and again, this is a proof of concept in many ways, but I do think if it is successful, having a marquee, or maybe advertisements as previews or something like that before the next movie could be something we could look at. But to pull this off on the timeline we had, we didn't have the
Boy, we did great.
Yeah.
We did great.
So I think
That's amazing. Congratulations.
I think the challenge now is to get the word out to any of the folks in the restaurant industry so that they know for sure the date and they can do their own promotions that they might like to do for any type of box dinner or meal go or something like that.
So that email went out about an hour ago, and I already talked to Concord Market. Already called me, so they're already on it.
Bingo.
So,
yeah.
And in terms of like selling out, we've already sold 25 tickets in 2 hours.
Wow.
Great. That's great.
Plus 14 for Shrek. No. Yep.
Wow.
Beth and I have a bet. I took the under in terms of sellout, so everybody get some tickets. I'll give you a share of my take.
No way.
So the other part of this is, well, I guess and I think I sent it to the committee. Cocktails to go is now lawful. That's kind of a heads up thing. I guess what I was going to say is I don't want to encourage cocktails to go for people to drive over to this. I want to be clear about that. I'm not connecting those two messages.
You just want to call it pre-gaming? Let's just call it pre-gaming, right?
I just rather know nothing about it.
Exactly. I don't think we should not talk about it. That should not be in the minutes.
Didn't I hear it was 16-ounce cocktails to go?
I think the limit was 64 ounces.
There's a
big gulp.
Jennifer who's joined us, but it says Cooper. Now it says Mark's iPhone. It's Jennifer. Baldino. Okay, hi. Great. Thank you so much, Rick. I really appreciate the update. I'm going to keep us going because we have a lot to talk about. Of course, you're welcome to stay if you'd like, but let's move on. Stephen.
Great. Thanks, everybody. See you at the movies.
Thank you so much, Rick. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
So, Stephen, you did just update us on the liquor license to drinks to go. That, I think, Beth, that's also been communicated out to all the restaurants, right?
Yes, we sent that out as soon as we got it to our list. I know there was one or two restaurants that said they didn't receive it. So if you have restaurateur friends or you're in the business and you haven't, just let me know. The other part is we are creating an outdoor entertainment temporary permit to go along with the outdoor dining. Like if you're an approved outdoor dining you could request to do some outdoor entertainment. It's a little squishy under the non-emergency rules. So we're just gonna try and come up with something that's relatively limited, but allows, say, somebody playing acoustic guitar till 10 o'clock or something like that. We don't want to overdo it and be disruptive to neighborhoods.
That's wonderful. Anything we can do to support the restaurants is much appreciated.
Oh, I do have one more, and so I'll be candid. The utility rate relief turned into a dead end. We got some legal advice on that it's rate discrimination is apparently a big thing. I had never heard that before, but it made it really difficult to do in the timeline that we're on, in the situation we're in. But we did, and actually, I'm going to give Jennifer credit for kind of prompting the idea. We are looking into electric outdoor heaters through CMLP. And so, I think as we move into outdoor dining, or even if you're a retailer and you're limited capacity and you have people wait outside to get in, when the weather gets cooler, these things could be something that could be used. Propane is a fossil fuel. I Googled that. So we know we're gonna have a need for outdoor heaters for outdoor dining to continue into the fall, which we all expect it will. So I feel positive that there may be a rebate or something like that, but I have Kate Hanley and CMLP looking into that. So before you go out and buy propane heaters, or if you think you're going to do that, let me know that you're looking at it and how many you think you would buy, so we can use that to frame out a rebate program potentially.
Oh, that's great. Stephen, we'll make sure to communicate that in the Concord Together group, and we'll get the message out to the Concord Business Partnership as well. That's really useful. Okay, Beth, could you take a second and give us an update on the Shared Streets grant, the micro businesses grant?
Sure. So I'm assuming most of you know by now, we were turned down for the Shared Streets grant. That was the one that we applied for $250,000 to be able to make mini parks. And we had identified 6 locations. The biggest thing that they were looking for, as it turned out, is communities that have public transport, which of course we don't have a bus. They wanted specifically bus connections. So Marcia did get some feedback based on what we'd asked for. So we can't do that. So one tentative solution that we've come up with is painting picnic tables. So the town owns a lot of existing picnic tables. So so the umbrella is going to lead a program to pair umbrella artists with community members. And we're just starting to work through that. But the locations that we have approval for are in West Concord beside Concord Tea Cakes, one at the Visitor Center, one at Emerson Fields, or 2, and one at National Parks at the bridge at Monument Square. So a minimum of 4, and we can probably paint more in other places. And in Millbrook Terry as well. So what I discovered is that several businesses bought picnic tables, donated them to the town. So the town owns them and they've placed them all over different places. So we'll probably have 5 locations, maybe more. We'll see how that goes. But all of those owners have given us permission to paint picnic tables. So it brings a little public art. And it's a community building exercise, and it helps the umbrella in terms of giving their artists something to work on. And the town has allocated some funds for paint supplies. So it's not the $250,000 in shade sales and planters and some of the other stuff we'd hoped for. But Marcia's continuing, oh good, she's here, to look at some other options too, to see what we might be able to do. And in terms of the block grant that we did get, we are just waiting for the application. And as soon as it comes out, Marcia will blast it out. Unless you heard something today, Marcia. I know they said soon, right?
Yes, they did say soon, but there's a series of questions. They have to put the application together and then get approval from DHCD for that application. There were also a series of questions that they needed answered before we went forward, but the Mass Capital Growth or Growth Capital Corporation is going to be administering the funds themselves. So it'll be a really quick turnaround once we are up and running. So as soon as I find out, I will let people know.
Yeah, from the table front, I'll just report that the library went ahead and bought a bunch of bistro tables.
They did.
Yeah.
Which
Yes.
is, I think they look great, and I've seen a lot of people sitting at them, which is nice. So mission accomplished.
Our picnic table is busy all the time. Like, I have a hard time getting it into the rotation for cleaning. So,
and cleaning is critical, making sure that we have sanitizing stations or something nearby so that people can do that. Our expectation is that people will do their cleanup after themselves as long as we have the supplies handy. And so I think the town has been working on making sure that happens.
yeah, I'm gonna steal Deborah's idea. To just of putting the bottle by the bench and tying it on there, since we have plenty of sanitizer in the town. So, and then like tea cakes, they clean theirs regularly. I clean mine regularly. Hunt is cleared regularly. So I think we'll be fine to keep them clean. And we've gotten a lot of comments when people see us out there cleaning that they're really appreciative. And some seem to be surprised that we're cleaning a public bench, but we are. So.
John, I have talked to Carrie Cronin about options for the cafe tables and chairs as well. So we are working on that and to really stimulate self-cleaning, but making sure that there is a plan that has, something to keep us covered.
Yeah, theirs are metal. So I looked at when they got there, I was like, oh, we can't, that'd be a lot harder to paint. So all the ones we're looking at are wood or, I think there's one. I think the new donated one is plastic. So we'll talk to Jerry about the proper paint for that and how to make sure it stays safe.
Beth, do you have any idea the timeline of when you're aiming to do that event?
The picnic tables, I'm hoping within the next month. I just have to connect Jerry to the different locations, and he was gonna think of a partner program. So I'm hoping that he'll just run with it and reach out to his artists. I know he's already talked about it. And I think families will jump at it. We may have to do a lottery for who paints them.
I was gonna ask that next. If there's only 5 or 6 tables, how are we gonna?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Jerry work on that and just come up with a plan.
I see Marie.
Okay, great. And then let's see, Marcia, do you have an update for us on the historic district conversation around signage?
Yes, they adopted my memo with one caveat, that they would streamline their review process. So if you want to put up a temporary sign, they would like to at least be able to see it. They'll turn it around in 48 hours. So I think that rather than have to pay a fee, have it go to a public hearing, and have them issue a certificate of appropriateness, I think they certainly took the spirit of moving forward. Their concern had to do with someone who had naked dancing girls on one of the banners at one point in time, and they said this is the last thing we would need in Concord Center. So they want to at least be able to review things, but they have a streamlined process and there's no fee involved.
Were there naked dancing girls on a sign in Concord, or they just randomly thought that might?
Somebody had proposed it way back. So I that came out of the blue for me, and there was only one person who was really adamant about having that review. So the other members of the commission were ready to just say, do it. This one person persuaded the others, and so they have a streamlined process, which I think is, is a good compromise.
Okay. Can we get some sort of a short description of where that application would go, what that process looks like, so that we can blast that out?
Absolutely. I'll work with Heather Gill to do that.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Okay, and then the parking meters, I think we've talked about that, right? Everyone's aware that the meters are not being enforced through Labor Day. And so anybody that wants to put a sign up to that effect, it's fine. And Stephen, I think we'll probably reassess as we get closer to Labor Day.
Yeah.
Okay, great. To that point though, Beth, I'm sorry to keep asking you to give us updates, but you were saying that the nature of the visitors coming through has remarkably changed in the last week or so, hasn't it?
We are seeing everything. from a guy from Medford that's starting the Historical Society in Medford today and wanted to stop by and have a long chat about visitor centers, to I've had some people from Texas and Florida and Venezuela. It's still 3/4, I would say, local, but I've got a bunch that are not local. And there seems to be some small families traveling. The hotels are seeing a slight uptick. I've talked to the Colonial Inn, the Best Western. I've talked to some of the hotels in Burlington. We're starting to do some partnerships with them to run packages because they're running weekend programs like overnighter kind of programs to try to boost up their sales, because a lot of the Burlington hotels really are missing out on their buses. So normally they get all the bus groups to Burlington. So we're working to come up with some creative packaging with Little Women and a Little Women tour and a bike tour and a walking tour, and seeing how we can all work together to get everybody bumped up. So, but we're seeing upwards of about 30 people a day on average on the busy days. You know, today with the rain in the middle of the day, I think we saw 12, but and the people are, you know, they're coming in, they're chatty, they're happy that we're open. We've had a ton of positive feedback on the cleanliness and the bathrooms being open and the bike rack being there. So I think we did the right thing. Lexington just got open last week, and they have no public bathrooms. So they are getting earfuls every day, and the staff are just taking it a beating over there. So,
Hey Beth, how does 30 visitors a day compare to historic numbers? Are those things you've tracked historically?
I do. I've got about 3 years worth of data since the town took over. So that's a little low. I think our average in June was definitely closer to 50 a day. But it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, for sure.
Yeah.
That's great. I'd be curious to hear from Deborah and Steve. Are you also seeing an uptick in foot traffic or in visitors in your neighborhoods as well?
Deborah?
Oh, Deborah's muted. Steve, maybe you want to go?
Okay. Yeah, our business lately, we've been a little stronger than a year ago. We still have our bathrooms closed to the public, which we were the first public bathrooms in town, I think. We are no more for the moment. Some of our produce goes to restaurants, and they've been having a struggle. So we've been giving a 50% discount to our existing customers on produce, and they're very appreciative of that. And it's a little harder to do business. We've had to put up a separate place to spread our cash registers out because they were too close together for the social distancing. And of course, they were all hardwired through the floor and all, so that gets to be a bit of a project. You don't just slide them around. But generally, business is pretty good.
Deborah, are you able to?
Yes.
Ah.
Thank you. And by the way, you're running a great meeting, Jennifer. You're just keeping everybody right on track. Like Steve, we're doing fine, and we're really just so relieved to be open and so relieved to be in business still. We don't sell to restaurants, and our produce is just going gangbusters. It's, you know, fresh is the one thing that everybody's been looking for during the pandemic. We are having this evening our first catering job since COVID. So we're actually doing a dinner for 50 top physicians and the women physicians in the Boston hospitals at a private home with a very large garden in Winchester. So that just felt like, because we always did a fair amount of catering. But yes, it's much harder to do business. Cost a lot more money to do business, but many of our customers go away for the summer, and many of them have gone to the Cape or they've gone to Maine. So we're summer is always slower for us.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to know that I didn't think to say?
Oh, no, it's just good to get a pulse. Ramon, I would really love to hear, because of course you have restaurants in other towns also. how are you doing? How's the restaurant industry in Concord, you think? And how is it comparing with some of your other locations?
So, thank you. I own Fiorella's restaurant, for those of you that don't know, but our Concord location is definitely the slowest out of all of them. You know, it seems that there are a lot of people, as Deborah said, that, you know, may own second homes or have vacation, you know, homes in other areas. So summer is definitely slower, but we are down about 60% in Concord specifically. So that's the highest, you know, that of the 5 locations. Our Newton locations, our other full service restaurant, which is down probably about 40%. And then our takeout versions, the express locations, are all doing well. Those are, you know, the most they're off by is maybe 5%. So, you know, people are still confident on the takeout. We're seeing the demand in these past couple of weeks have shifted. I don't know if it's consumer confidence based on what's happening around the country, but, you know, we were doing, you know, overall, our numbers are pretty steady, but so it seems that people were shifting from takeout to dine-in. It wasn't like it's bringing in new people. It's just the people that were already confident about it, comfortable, have been dining in. We didn't elect to do the outdoor seating in Concord because it's just not just the process of applying and doing all that, but it was really an economical decision. You know, we have a patio in Newton, which, you know, we have about 6 or 7 tables on, and it fills up on the days that are really nice. But then, the other, when it's too hot or it rains, we don't get to use it. So to invest a lot, the return is not necessarily there like we would want it to be. So I was very hesitant. I know, I was definitely vocal about the ability to do it early on, which I think I still stand behind. However, really a numbers game to be able to invest the amount of money we need to invest to make it, attractive and hospitable. And, but, I was on a board I'm on the board with the Mass Restaurant Association as well. So we had a board call today, and we put out, the National Restaurant Association has put out a blueprint for success as far as the financial help that the industry needs, specifically, for the restaurant industry, because it's so different than every other industry. I know a lot of people are affected in different ways, but there's definitely some things that need to be done to help a lot of us, because there's a lot of places that, as not only we've seen in Concord, but across the board, that are not reopening.
So Ramon, along that line, because this is a venue where we can explore these things, right? So what could the town do to help? Because I've seen like Karma's tried, they've put some seats up along the side, but you're right, if it's too hot, you're under a plastic tent and you're uncomfortable. If it's raining, I see people at Main Streets today at lunchtime were like trying to figure out what to do because there's nowhere to go. They're not even open inside. 80 Thoreau, I noticed they expanded a little bit what they did. They initially had like a handful of tables on that cement patio, and now it looks like they've come down into an outside space, but it's not covered. Paparazzi did something interesting with that big tent, but that's got to be very expensive.
Right.
So how can the town help? Because of course there's Fiorella's, but we're worried about all the restaurants. And I think of all the businesses, they're probably the most vulnerable at this time. I mean, everyone needs help. What can the town do? What can the private industry do to help? Do you have any ideas?
Well, I mean, the thing is, as far as the town's concerned, like when we talk about having the ability to do outdoor seating, it's really difficult because every business is unique and different, right? So like a lot of towns have done these parklets and have allowed to take over 1 or 2 parking spaces out front. It's fine. But at max, you're getting maybe 3-4 tables out of it when you social distance it. So it really is not enough to move the needle. It just feels like it's something that we need to do because we want to feel like we're doing something, and it's better than doing nothing. However, what I've seen successful is the public spaces like in Needham that have been done, and those have been utilized, like Waltham has done, like Belmont has done. Those towns that are have early on been able to not just shut down streets, but use public spaces and, picnic benches and, maybe a tent, but there, there needs to be something covered, right? Because otherwise, the rain is going to wash it out, and all of that stuff helps. But when I talked about our, because I'm with the Newton Needham Chamber, the Needham members are saying that public space that they have over there is full and they're using it. So it's not, it's in their downtown, it's a shared space, it's done by the town, and you order from a restaurant and you go out there. But I know it's very unique from town to town, depending on the location and who can utilize it. So it's really a matter of, every little bit of just trying something. And it's really comes down to consumer confidence of some communities are much more comfortable with dining in than others. In Newton, it seems like they're fine with it. We have installed air filtration, the UV lighting, and I know, John, you've done that as well, but it's really, tried to do something, to help give people a peace of mind. And as far as, the stuff financially, there's certain grants that we, that I think we've talked about here that could be helpful for all businesses, but specifically for the restaurant, it's really in the legislators' hands right now. It's, maybe once that gets a little further along, we can maybe help reach out to our local officials and try to, advocate for it. But it really is, we have like 3 weeks right now. It's the last time that they're in session, and they're, we have this one opportunity for them to vote on these things, and that will get through. But we were on the phone with Sean Kennedy, who's the public affairs, vice president with the National, Restaurant Association, and just talking about the things that, whether it's PPP related, or, some other incentives that they're looking for that can help, the industry specifically. But again, the town, I know you guys are doing everything you can, and we appreciate it, streamlining all the process. Sometimes when you look at these applications, it is overwhelming. We've been battling every single day for the past 4 months, and now that the dining rooms are opening, it's adding another complexity and cost, right? So somebody else mentioned it's more expensive to be able to maintain that with all the, PPE stuff and sanitizing and disinfecting tables in between turns, and being able to bring in more staff to cover it when we're not making any more. So it's a really trying time to be able to balance. I'm hoping September, assuming that something, else doesn't come, a second wave, I'm hoping a lot of people that are away are going to come back, and hopefully that will help us. But it is very, very dire at this time with for the industry. I like to be positive in general, and I am an optimist, but the reality is that, it's going to be tough.
I wish we as a group could come up with some action items to help. Go ahead, John. I think they're probably thinking the same thing, but you go ahead.
A couple comments. One on this, on the issue about the state level legislation. You're right that July is typically the end of their legislative session. That's when the budget gets approved. And there's typically a whole rush of stuff that happens at the very last minute, and you hope the good stuff emerges. I was speaking yesterday with a lobbyist who was telling me that they've been approving 1/12 budgets. So as opposed to approving a budget for the entire year, because there's so much uncertainty about what the rest of the year might hold, that it looks like they may actually, that this July may not be the end of the legislative opportunity, for the industry, that they may just do, 1/12 of the budget at a time. So that extends the hope that there could be other things that could be coming along, even if they're not quite, on the legislative calendar yet. I wanted to come back to the point you made about Needham, because I haven't seen what they're doing. And the point you made about needing to moderate an investment in something that's not going to give enough return, right? So you don't want to build a big, lavish outdoor dining area if you can only seat 7 people out there, right? And understanding that with restaurants, the restaurant business, even when you're allowed to operate at 100% capacity, is hard. If you're only allowed to operate at a quarter capacity or half capacity, I would assume it's virtually impossible. What I'm wondering is, I think to the question Jennifer was maybe going to get to, is there a model that you believe would work in these particular conditions? So do we know enough about what Needham's doing to know that restaurants are able to make money with that apparently shared outdoor seating, but kind of delivered, you order out, I guess, but you're all sitting together? if we did something like that, is there reason to believe that you and other restaurants would be able to make enough money to justify it? Because if it really did make sense, then we should pursue it. If we know that Needham is a loser anyways, and you're still not going to make enough money to justify full participation and all that, then we shouldn't. But how much do you know about Needham or other towns that may have models that are allowing restaurants to be profitable in these times?
So that's a great question. And to your point, it is definitely not sustainable to forget about a quarter. We can't even do it 50, 60% and be able to survive. To answer your question about the outdoor seating and the if it's going to move the needle enough, right? I honestly don't think across the board it will. It will do something, but it will not make enough of a difference for someone to be profitable. From the community, from the people that I've spoken to in Needham, just like any outdoor seating, or when the weather's permitting, it's great. They're doing well. The two things that are really affecting the restaurants are rents, right? The rents are just, a lot of landlords are not being helpful as far as rent relief, and that's the biggest fixed cost that restaurants have. So, for them, it's a matter of those discussions, and some of the landlords are just, I don't think they're really fully aware of reality of how dire it could be when their restaurant is not there, or just retail in general. So there, from what I hear, it's the rent conversations that are gonna, really be able to get us through, because that's the only thing that controls your expenses. So if we did the outdoor seating and had some rent relief, but I get on the landlord side, they have costs, they have a mortgage, right? So it's a two-way street. So I wish I could say, if there was a magic wand and to say, yes, put up a tent and put up, 20 tables and it's going to make all the restaurants survive, do it. But I don't think that will do it, because also the way that we're set up, right? So there's not enough of a density of restaurants in one specific area. Besides, you have West Concord and you have Concord Center, but, for it to really make enough, unless, something that I thought of that might, something like this drive-in movie idea, right? But like Concord Center had the Sidewalk sale last weekend. I mean, it seemed like it just happened without any notice. Well, it definitely happened without notice, but all of a sudden, they had this half the street closed off, and it happened quickly. I don't know what the turnout, was, but if we could do something like that, but again, that's going to benefit the few restaurants in that area. But if we could do something like that on, maybe the weekends, or, or everybody knows that on, a couple of days a week, that's happening, and maybe it drives some consumer behavior to get back out there. But it's just a volume issue at this point. There's not enough people going out, and more restaurants are opening, so it's diluting the market. So everybody's just flat. So it's, I know, to your point, Paparazzi's doing well with that tent, which is great.
But they have a space for it.
Exactly. Not everybody has the luxury or the ability to do that, and let alone the cost of putting that up there. But I don't know, maybe some sort of block party-ish kind of idea, something that's going to just bring people more of an excuse, because it's a PR. People want to feel safe. They need to feel confident. We were doing better with just takeout. Honestly, I was happier without dealing with this dine-in, because now the dine-in, again, we're adding cost, we're adding labor. Not as many people are going to be dining in. So to staff it, to spend money on the disinfecting, it's definitely.
So Ramon, because I think at one point, because Cheese Shop had not expressed interest in outdoor dining, and Fiorella's hadn't expressed interest in outdoor dining per se, even though the neighbors were in favor of closing off the street, we kind of didn't pursue it because we didn't know there was interest. But if you're saying that if we did, say, 2 times over the summer or 3 times over the summer, an evening out where we block the street and we create some kind of an event that's focused around dining outside, maybe the town could provide some support with some of the materials. We could maybe do an entertainment license for an acoustic guitar or something. Maybe the shops would like to be open in the evening that one night. Something like that would be of interest to pursue?
I think something like that to me resonates a little bit more, because shutting down the street, for us, curbside pickup is the largest part of our business right now. So if we shut down the street, we lose that part. And so I don't want to lose the ability for people to be pulling up and getting that. And, it's kind of being penny wise, dollar foolish, maybe, like I don't want to, I think retail, I think the foot traffic is important, but shutting down half the street, I've seen, let's say Belmont has shut down 2 sides. They've made it one way going in the middle. I think Concord Center could do that with something similar, but they're still allowing some traffic, but they blockade it so that there's a one-way traffic and then seating on either side of that. So that works well, but you have a number of restaurants that are close by that are able, and retailers as well. It's not just restaurants.
I appreciate Ramon's optimism. And Jennifer, I feel like events are great for one night, right? But again, the bottom line is that there's a volume problem. Yeah. Not enough people are going out to eat. Not enough people are ordering out right now. And short of increasing the volume on a consistent basis, it's going to be very hard for these restaurants to survive. And I think we need to just register the fact that that our restaurant industry in Concord is a serious risk. And by the way, for the retailers on the call, I don't want to discount the risk to you as well, but just since we're talking about restaurants, maybe what we could do, Ramon, you said that the Restaurant Association of America, or whatever it was called, their Massachusetts Restaurant Association, has circulated something. If that's worth sharing with the committee, I'd love to see it. And maybe we can find some things that we can do to, if there are ideas in there that can really seriously boost volume, maybe there's something we need to do for Concord as a whole. I'm a little surprised and actually encouraged by Beth's numbers. If we are at 30 visitors a day, normally at 50, we're not that far off from traditional volumes. Maybe the things we need to do to bring just more people back en masse to Concord. I don't know how we do that, but we need to be looking at
the restaurants can still only have 50% capacity inside the restaurant. So I think what might be useful is, does it make sense? And I know this sounds very legislative speak, but it sounds like we need a subcommittee to look at specifically how to help the restaurants. Does that make sense, to get 1 or 2 people working on this and come back to us with some solid ideas? And
I'd be happy to take part of that. Yeah.
Okay, great. Who else could work with Ramon on that? I think it's really important.
Can I just make a comment? Sure. Because I would be happy to help with that, because I do think there's a lot of interplay. One of the things, one of the things that was great about the sidewalk sale was that it was, organically developed by the businesses. And I don't want to speak for the businesses that were involved about how it went. I know how I feel like I thought it went, but I was a consumer, not a retailer. But I think the big thing is, it's like the discussion about Ag Day. Street festivals are still not allowed under the governor's orders. And so the parklet thing, where you block a few parking spaces, I think we can pass off as not a street festival. It's when you get into blocking street. And I didn't really, I'm all for blocking streets and creating that atmosphere for like a pedestrian level atmosphere. But when we got into the guidance, it was like, oh, geez, what is a street festival? What's an up market? The other thing is on the open air, on the outdoor spaces, I think the thing that we still to this day, challenged by is where. It sounds like Needham had like an existing open space that had benches and tables that people are utilizing. I'm new. And so maybe I'm just not aware of where those spaces were in Concord, but when we started looking into it, we didn't even have a place like furniture. It didn't seem like we had furniture to do that. And so that's where I think Ramon's, it's fair to say that we were behind that curve. But I was like, I don't know where we would do this in each district. So I think we do have, I think a subcommittee would be great to kind of take a fresh look at some of these ideas. And I do want to say one more kind of non sequitur thing, because I want to build on something Steve said. Today, the governor announced a food security initiative, and there are going to be grants for producers. And I know we have a lot of local agricultural producers. So that was, if you go to the Mass COVID page, it's the latest daily update.
Right. All right. I go ahead, Steve.
Well, I'm sorry, I couldn't get in at the beginning. Was a discussion of the farmers market earlier?
No, we haven't gotten to it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually, to keep us on schedule, it sounds like Stephen and Ramon are willing to work on a restaurant subcommittee. Can I have one more volunteer to help with ideas? And anybody? Okay, Stephen and Ramon, it's up to you two, okay? And please remember, a subcommittee is subject to open meeting law. So you're gonna need to just post your agenda. But if you could try to get 2 or 3 ideas that you could present to this meeting next time, that would be extraordinarily helpful. And also, when you're developing your ideas, please keep in mind groups like Concord Together and the Concord Business Partnership that we could reach out for, you know, public, private industry to co-op with you and help with you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not actually a member of the committee, so Ramon is a subcommittee of 1, so he wouldn't have to post his minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, Ramon, just work on some ideas and call people you know, and will you be okay to do that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share any information that I have. Again, it may or may not, be relevant always, but I'll definitely share whatever I can, and we can go from there.
Okay. And everybody else, just put your thinking caps on, okay? This is really important.
I'd be willing to help out. If it's just one phone call, one Zoom call with Ramon between now and our next meeting, I'm sure I can do that and just brainstorm some ideas. I know it's hard to do it all on your own.
Okay. Well, Ramon,
I appreciate that. I'm gonna let me just come up with some things for this for the next one, and then let's see where we can go from there, because I know everybody's time is extremely tight these days. So
we'll carve out a bit more time on the next agenda to focus on the restaurants. Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you.
We want you to know you're not alone. Okay. We're worried.
We're
all hungry. We need you to be there.
Thank you.
So, okay, let's keep things rolling if we could. We'll give just a very quick update on Concord Together. Jennifer Albadino unfortunately had to leave, but she did just want to let people know that so far the Concord Together Fund has raised a total of $63,000, and they have already started giving out some grants. She's saying that the grants that have been approved so far have come to $53,000 that's getting out there to help the businesses. So please encourage your friends that need a little extra help to apply for those grants. They're up to $2,500 a piece. It's for anything you need to help you deal with the COVID pandemic. And you can find more information on concordtogether.com or on the Community Trust website. Summer solstice, I guess I'll update quickly. Beth and I did live stream number 3 today, and that program is going really well, actually. I would say we've gotten close to 40 passports passed in at this point, like a lot.
At least. I think it's closer to 50. I did a quick count today, and a lot of repeat shoppers. And they are going right back out with their $10 certificates and shopping. So
that's wonderful. And so that will continue through August 20th. We have 4 more weeks of fun. So please encourage your friends to get out there and participate. I hope everyone is seeing people coming in and participating. So thank you to all the volunteers who are behind that.
Yeah.
Mark, did you have a comment? Nope. Okay. We had raised in the last meeting a survey. I think John is going to help with Concord Together to get that survey out. So we're just going to kind of gloss over that one for now. We'll come back and visit those results in our next meeting. And so now let's take a few minutes. Happy, thank you so much for joining us today. If you could take a couple minutes and update us on what's happening with Ag Day and what this committee, what the community can do to support you.
Okay, the select board has directed that I should explore the possibility of having Ag Day on September 12th as planned. It would be in an abbreviated form. with no entertainment, no kids games, no info tables, but in a secured area with a guided pedestrian traffic. And we would definitely follow the state protocol for farmers markets. Most of the farms are interested in participating because they have experience already with farmers markets. So for most of the farms, they don't have to really change much of their daily practices. For others, we will have to work with them a little bit, which is fine. But we wanted to see how people felt about if we used our traditional location, or should it be moved to some other location.
Are there specific locations that you have in mind as an alternative?
Well, a couple of suggestions are up on the green in front of the inn, maybe Haywood Meadow. I think going to a parking lot is not what we would really prefer. That would be on the low end of the locations.
And I think what might be interesting for this committee to explore is there a way, and is it appropriate to tie anything from the other businesses with Ag Day, or is that going to create too much of a traffic situation?
Well, it's, we have always encouraged businesses, especially the restaurants or delis, to promote dishes or sandwiches or whatever with locally grown produce, or to call it farmer sandwich or whatever. We have had displays in the bookstore before, the week before, which would be fun to do again. But other than that, we haven't had an opportunity like this to bring in the other retailers.
Is it because of potential crowding, Happy, that you're considering a different location?
Yes, that was one of the concerns of the select board, that it might cause too much of congestion in the town center. However, farmers markets directive includes that you have directional shopping.
So like any other retailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify. Concern wasn't about traffic. It was agricultural festivals are also expressly prohibited under the orders. And we wanted to keep away from creating an agricultural festival scenario because it's not allowed. I think the traffic issues, I don't think we're, I think we'd be able to manage those. It's more the orders.
So if you call it a Concord
agricultural festival.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're calling it, that's why I think we're focusing on the farmer's market model.
Oh. Okay.
What about some of the auxiliary fields at the high school, like where the baseball diamonds are? So you've got...
That's pretty remote, and I know from the times when I am waiting on customers that it's a lot of older people who live downtown in the apartments and so forth that are very happy to be able to go out and stroll and find fresh stuff right at their doorstep.
I think from an economic impact standpoint, it's if we can keep it in Concord Center, that would be preferable.
Yeah. I would think if the farmer's market was in the parking lot, it would be close to the center, and the vendors in the stores in the center could have sidewalk sales or whatever they wanted along with it. It wouldn't be a one total event, but everybody be doing their own thing at the same time.
And you were saying, Happy, that that's less preferable, having it in a parking lot?
Yes, well, in our discussion in previous years, that's been the least desirable. But if we can have the street space again, I mean, we would be totally fine with that.
Behind Middlesex Savings Bank, they've had the Jazz Festival the last couple of years, and it really, and it changes the feeling of the parking lot completely. You forget it's a parking lot. So.
Yeah, I think the parking lot certainly is less desirable, but under current conditions, I think that might be a good compromise and let everybody else benefit as well.
You know, maybe we could combine having it in the parking lot behind Middlesex Bank, but then maybe that is an opportunity to close Walden Street that evening and kind of make a day of it where, you know, you have Ag Day, and then that evening, if the restaurants wanted to do some sort of themed dining around fresh produce or something, I don't know if we have time to develop it at that level, but. All right, well, it sounds like happy your group is on this. We really appreciate the update, and if there's anything that this group can do to help communicate out the opportunities that the retail businesses and the restaurants would have, please let us know. We're happy to support you however we can.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for that update. Okay, I did ask Marie to join us as well. Marie just came back. I say come back. She was attending a virtual retailer conference with several thousand of her closest friends. And I thought it would be great to hear what she's hearing from other parts of the country and other communities, and just kind of help us with some learnings from that.
It was a virtual retail conference that it usually takes place in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and there were 1,800, and they had 4 Zoom rooms open, and they had a main stage with presenters and several different conferences going on at the same time. And they had, what was interesting this time is you had lots of breakout sessions with 100 of your nearest and dearest retailers from across the world, actually. And the number one concern for everyone, besides their own business and restaurants, because restaurants are vital to keeping all of us going, because people do come in to eat and they need some place to go during the day for a little respite and to have lunch and whatnot. But the biggest concern was rent, no forgiveness of any rent, and all the empty spaces that are opening up. Now I'm sitting underneath a big space. There's one right down the way. There are 2 others here on Main Street on the 2nd floor. And I sent to Stephen and a few other people that someone had sent me a webinar next week concerning initiatives to attract businesses to your town. And that was a big conversation that we all had, to the point where it turned into all of us discussing it, was how do we form a committee to, when we are short-staffed like this, to go out and actually attract businesses to come into our town, to keep it vital and set up in retail spaces where many of the landlords are not going down on their rents. People were hopeful that everything will go through Christmas. I would say 20% of the people that were at the conference, which is quite a bit, will be out by Christmas. They are going to start their sales in September and October, and they have already approached their landlords, and they're just not going to do it anymore. It's just gotten too hard. I think that part of that will happen here in Concord too. As leases come up, people will say, I just can't do it anymore. So I would be interested in trying to start something to get businesses, let us pick the businesses that come into town, or at least help, recruit businesses that we think might fit into the mix.
I had a conversation along the same lines with someone last week in Concord who basically said that back in 2008, 2009, she'd had a credit line drew down $48,000 against her $50,000 credit line, managed to pay that back over the next couple of years. Still has access to that credit line, but is questioning whether it's worth it. She's like,
Right.
I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I'm not sure I want to go into take on that debt. And the sense I got was that, she will quite likely not. What she was concerned about is another surge in the fall. She said, if we have to shut down again and
We're
go through
done.
all this again, my sense was she's not going to draw the line. She's just going to wrap it up.
Right. I did apply and I was awarded the EIDL loan, and but I have decided I'm not going to use it for the same reasons. Yes, the rate is great, and I would say 50% of the people at the conference said they're not going to use it either, because I got a $25,000 loan, at the end of it I owe $18,900 on top of interest. Of course, if they think I'm going to live another 30 years, they got another thing coming. So they got a short loan maybe. But that was a full half-day discussion of, is it worth taking on debt to stay in business? And what is the, outside of the personal reward that we love to do this, in the long run, then you're not making any money, you're losing everything that you ever earned.
So two things to me that really hit home in this conversation today. One is Ramon's comment about volume. You need volume. We need volume. Second is the rent problem. I don't know how we can solve the rent problem. With Henry Dane's proposal, that potentially could have brought some real money to bear to provide rent relief, as an example of one high value use. I don't think that's going to happen. No. It kind of brings back the idea we talked about 2 weeks ago, and we talked about it at the last Concord Together call, but I think we need to make some progress on it, is e-commerce. E-commerce is a way to bring volume virtually, right? It doesn't help the restaurants as much. That's absolutely true. But it can help the retailers. And I think that's something that, Jennifer, we should put our heads together on with Concord Together tomorrow. And, let's actually take some concrete steps forward in that, because that is, building a capability
yes.
that really could bring permanent volume to Concord.
And when I meet with you tomorrow with Concord Together, there was a lot of conversation also about towns doing a centralized web page. So, and I think they're coming out of that. Some of the presenters that were at this conference will be coming up with webinars concerning that.
A few weeks ago, I think John suggested we try to work on an online ordering system for all the Concord businesses. And I think that would be a tremendous idea if it turns out to be doable and economically feasible.
The problem
and I have
is
one other
the
thing.
likelihood of being extremely expensive. I mean, we're talking about creating Amazon for Concord, but maybe there's
even if it drove people to their own, if you could do a central Concord website, which everyone was discussing, and then it could be attractive and could actually drive people. You could do a sampling of what would be available, and then they could go to specific websites. Right. That they were saying that would be the way. But I wanted to address one other thing before I needed to go, and that is the volume issue. That was huge in this conference also, because I'm only allowed 8 people down here. At Christmas, there are days I have 40 and 50 people down here. I can't do the volume. Consequently, through the fall and into the Christmas season, if we are allowed to still be open and they have not lifted our restrictions, you just can't do the business that you used to do that actually keeps us all alive from January to May, which is what people used to stay alive this year. So it's very tricky. That volume issue, people volume issue is going to be very tricky. And Dawn, you have the same issue.
Yeah, that's, people say looking ahead to Christmas and Christmas will save us, but the month of December scares the heck out of me.
Oh.
Because I can't have the volume in the store. Even things like, I have a note to put in our newsletter next week to remind people, hey, we can wrap for you now in that holiday paper, because we can't do it in December. One of my thoughts was finding some space in town. You know, we typically have volunteers come in to wrap for us. The community chest comes in, Nature Connection comes in, different groups, and they have a little tip jar. And I'm, you know, on the back burner, I'm thinking, is there a spot in town where those nonprofits could go and we could all direct them to take that burden off the individual shops? I mean, it's something that we offer, and it's—
Maybe we could talk to the landlords of the empty storefronts and see if we could temporarily either lease it from them or use that space to have a central gift wrapping or something.
Yep. So the empty storefronts, I know again has been brewing is, you know, as you see the paper go up on the windows, we want to avoid that look of blight. We want to avoid the look of the empty storefront. So I'm wondering if the town could connect with the owners of those buildings on behalf of the nonprofits in town for putting up a poster in the window about the community chest, about Concord Together, about Concord Players. So I'm, you know, concentrating on the nonprofits, not the retailers, but reminding everybody that Concord has these great resources, and they are also unable to do their, you know, the typical things that they do to bring in revenue.
The town is still alive.
Yeah. So rather than have paper on the windows, let's have something vibrant.
Even our historical references, I mean, like Jan, Orchard House is still unable to accommodate. And it's so tragic because, of course, Little Women came out on Christmas and they were bracing for hundreds of visitors a day, and then kaboosh.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, I need to go.
Okay, thank you, Marie.
Bye,
All
Marie.
right,
Very much.
I will see you all later.
I don't know how to raise my hand, so I apologize, but I just wanted to go back to what Steve was saying a moment ago. And then Jennifer, you're right, we don't want to recreate Amazon here, but Beth, if you and I could talk, or a bunch of people could talk about how we could simply use the pre-existing town website to simply say, you know, just one little page of that could just list all of the web addresses that the various store people put together. And of course, nonprofits too. I mean, we have a shop at Orchard House that's online. Then that would be a way of advertising it, and they would just click and go directly to that store. Therefore, it would be simple. There's no recreation of Amazon. It just lets everybody know, oh, here's how you visit Concord. Oh, here's how you can buy things virtually. And then I think the way Stephen mentioned before, just the idea for even our local people to understand that this is a way to keep the town vibrant. You know, to let people know if you can't get into the shop, or if the shop isn't even open, please order online if you can.
I can very easily do that. I offered free listings to every business in town that wanted one, and I only had a handful of people take me up on it. So if anybody wants to put a list together and wants to be listed, I'm happy to do that. Very.
Discover Concord magazine offered a free ad to anyone who wanted it, and it's in our virtual visit section. But all right, listen, guys, we're
Hey, Jennifer, I have a quick question or a comment.
Sure.
I guess a comment and a question. So, you know, as a landlord and as a landlord of, you know, a number of retail spots, you know, I think for the last 4 to 5 years, you know, when we do an analysis of what shopping centers we find desirable, the first question we ask ourselves is which tenant will be picked off by or competes with Amazon. So I think that for certain businesses, maybe it's inevitable you have to compete online. And if you do, and then Amazon is a viable option, it's a challenge. But I think secondarily, again, as a landlord, we're looking for tenants who do not compete with Amazon, and tenants where the residents of Concord will value and visit and support those businesses. And so I'm just wondering if we have any way to get data on how many, you know, how many of our sales are being purchased by Concord residents. Is the trend up? Is it down? I still think, and I've missed a memo, or I'm a little bit behind on this one, but I still think that the general public being the moms and dads at home, don't understand how critical the challenge is and how they are going to have to participate in supporting small businesses if they want those businesses to exist. Otherwise, the town is going to be full of hair salons, nail salons, and restaurants. And I hate to be that dire, but that's where the trend is going. So sort of a two-part commentary. You know.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
What's that?
You're absolutely right, Mark.
But there are wonderful specialty shops that we have where people come from all around the country to come to Concord. And I just think that we need to do a better job of attracting more of those sort of specialty purveyors, if you will, of goods and services. And then we as a town need to do a heck of a lot better job of supporting those businesses. I mean, just as an example, my son's a big fisherman. I spent 25 minutes yesterday on lawn trying to figure out how I could support a rod and reel company that wasn't Amazon. And it was hard. And I did it, but it was a huge pain in the neck. And I'm actually going to get my reel 4 days later than Amazon would deliver it. But I felt better because, you know, I wasn't using Amazon. And again, I don't necessarily have anything against Amazon, but I do try to support the smaller, you know, specialty shops.
Yeah, very
so
important.
Apologize for the sort of the diatribe, but just my thinking.
Okay. I am gonna wrap things up because we're running over, but I do see 4 items that John will want to make sure we address more in depth in our next meeting, and that is preparing for the holiday season, doing everything we can to support everyone in their preparation phases, looking to how to survive and optimize the holiday season. Restaurants, digging in deeper, what can the town be doing to save our restaurants? E-commerce, hopefully by this next meeting, we'll have some more solid ideas around that. And recruiting new businesses into the empty storefronts. What can we do as a group to be putting our heads together to get the right kind of people in, the right kind of businesses to thrive, in addition to our regular items. So I want to thank everyone. It's been a very fascinating conversation, a good, robust meeting. I know we have a lot more work to do, but can I go ahead and get a motion to adjourn? We are already over schedule.
So moved.
Okay, can I have a second, please? Thank you. All right, I'm just gonna walk through. Aye, John?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Deborah? Okay, Steve?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Ramon?
Aye.
Jan?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Okay, thank you all so much. We'll be back in 2 weeks and keep up the good work.
Thanks,
Take care,
everybody.
everybody.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.